We had stopped here last time, but to rationalize faith is not to admit the superiority of philosophy over religion. And last time we looked in a bit of, you know, in a fairly detailed way, um, the relationship between philosophy and religion. And one of the things we concluded at the time, at least provisionally, was to say that when we talk about philosophy or religion and we talk about their relationship, we should always ask the basic question, which philosophy and which religion. And the context is important because philosophy work within a particular civilization. So within different civilization, philosophy has different roles. Similarly, religion may or may not exist in a particular civilization, especially in the modern sense of the word, where religion is more of a inner, your relationship with your own inner self, which doesn't necessarily have any external manifestations. So in that context, we will continue the paragraph. So philosophy, no doubt, has jurisdiction to judge religion. Again, the question is which philosophy and which religion. The context is important. So the context, but what is to be judged is of such a nature that it will not submit to the jurisdiction of philosophy except on its own term. So when we raise the question of whether philosophy has jurisdiction over religion, philosophy has jurisdiction over religion. It is important to look at the civilizational context. So, for example, if you look at the Christian context, for example, in different stages of the development of the Christian civilization, the role of philosophy and the meaning of philosophy and the meaning of philosophy changed. But one thing which remains constant as long as there is some sort of Christian civilization which is dominant. Christian civilization which is dominant. As long as there's a Christian civilization which is dominant, philosophy as a subject might have some role, and it had some role, but it doesn't have civilizational force. It is not a dominant force. It's only when Christian civilization starts to weaken that certain conceptions of philosophy um, start attaining or some sort of force or some sort of dominance. But as long as Christian civilization is dominant, there's no question of philosophy having jurisdiction over religion in inverted commas, that is on Christian civilization or Christian dogma or Christian theology. Christian civilization, so philosophy may have certain uses within Christian civilization, but there is no question of, as long as Christian civilization is dominant, there's no question of philosophy. Firstly, philosophy, I mean, we're talking as if philosophy is the same thing across the history, which it is not. But even if we talk at that level, the context is very important. So, and the power is very important. And so it's not just a question of knowledge, it's a question of more knowledge power. So that's a very important thing. So, for example, we can say that in pre-Augustinian Christianity, philosophy had one role. Then Augustine give it another role. By Augustine, I mean, Augustine is one figure, a prominent figure, but the whole cultural constellation around him. And then we have post-Augustinian era. Philosophy has a bit different roles, so especially since Thomas Aquinas' philosophy get a more prominent role within Christian theology. And then we have post-Augustinian role when Christian civilization starts declining, and the role of its philosophy and its jurisdictional power, factual, it's a bit of misnomer, but factual jurisdictional power. So it's only after the Middle Ages in 14th and 15th and 16th century that the first Renaissance and then humanism, and then we come across Descartes when philosophy started gaining civilizational power because of the overall changes around. I'm not saying that philosophy caused those changes, but philosophy modern philosophy came into existence, I mean, it is impossible that modern philosophy would have come into existence in the way it exists today without the decline of Christian civilization and the rise of modernity and the rise of capitalism, etc. So that civilizational context um, is the one which Iqbal ignores here, and we can give similar example within the Islamic civilization as well. From Ghazali to Iqbal. So it is only with imperialism that philosophy in the modern sense become something acquires some sort of jurisdictional power. In the context of which Iqbal can raise this question of sitting in judgment on religion. Philosophy, no doubt, has jurisdiction to judge religion. There's no jurisdiction in a vacuum. This jurisdiction is created and sustained within a civilizational context. And it is only within a civilizational context that firstly, philosophy and religion attain their meaning they have, whatever meaning they have, a concept they have. So there's no such thing as philosophy as such or religion as such, unless we are talking in purely minimalist terms. But if we want to talk about philosophy in the substantial sense and religion in substantial sense, then it is a civilizational context, any civilizational context, which will give meaning to what philosophy is, what religion is, and what is their relationship. So, although, I mean, nobody can stop anyone for raising this question, and it might have some uses in certain contexts. So no one can stop anyone from raising this question in abstraction or in abstraction from civilizational context. But just because you are abstracting from civilizational context doesn't mean that you are not situated in that civilizational context. So it seems to me that raising this question of the relationship between philosophy and religion in this abstract context, Iqbal. Obviously, as we go further in this chapter, we'll see that this abstraction will be filled in. So the context, Iqbal's context is modernity, and in modernity, philosophy has acquired a jurisdiction to judge religion. Not only judge religion, but conceptualize religion, not just philosophy, but the civilization as a whole see religion in a particular way, be it Christianity or Islam. So when we raise the question of whether philosophy, no doubt, has jurisdiction to judge religion, what he's talking about is modern philosophy. Maybe it's Kantian philosophy, or is Cartesian philosophy. So, and it is in the context of the rise of modernity, the rise of capitalism, the rise of modern state, the rise of modern civil society, that we can rise of modern university, that we can pose that we are able to pose this question in such an abstract form. Pretending as if philosophy exists in abstraction from what is happening around the world, or power relations, or religion exists without that civilizational context. So, philosophy no doubt has jurisdiction to judge religion today. But what is to be judged is of such a nature that it will not submit to the jurisdiction of philosophy except on its own terms. This is, again, doesn't make sense because it will vary according to different civilizational contexts. Today, religion is on trial because it doesn't have any real civilizational power. So philosophy can, religion can judge philosophy too, but that judgment doesn't have efficacy in the civilizational context. And depending on how modernity has penetrated in a particular society, that will vary as well. So I'm not saying that it will be similar in all societies. So philosophy no doubt has jurisdiction to judge religion, but what is to be judged is of such a nature that it will not submit to the jurisdiction of philosophy except on its own term. I think that's not true, because this will depend on the power relations. So in modern university, even if you look at modern university, like if you talk about the conflict of faculties within theology or religion today doesn't have even that power which it had in the time of Kant or Hegel, even in late 19th or early 20th century. So those power relations. So this question, philosophy's relation to modern civilization, and religion and its relation to modern civilization, then we can pose this question. While sitting in judgment on religion, philosophy cannot give religion an inferior place among its data. Well, it doesn't matter if religion has a very inferior place in its data, because in the civilizational context, religion doesn't run the show anymore. It's just, it doesn't even have that status which philosophy has. Not to say a civilizational power. So religion is not a departmental affair, but in modernity it is a departmental affair. And Luther is the one who expressed this departmental affair and made it into something very personal, which didn't have any external manifestation. And as modernity grows, religion in the traditional Christian Islamic sense the space for them becomes narrower and narrower. And in a full-fledged modernity, that place would be just between your own inner life or whatever, or if you can carve some space somewhere in society, as long as that religion is not a challenge to the dominant civilization. So here Iqbal's abstraction, it seems that he poses this question in a totally wrong way. But we'll see how it goes. So religion is not a departmental affair. Yes, that's in Iqbal's thought. It is neither mere thought, nor mere feeling, nor mere action. He's thinking of Islam, for example. It is a totalizing force. It's a complete system when it has civilizational force. But on the other hand, modern civilization is also a totalizing force. Modern civilization, modernity, capitalism is also a complete system. So you can't have two complete systems within one space. So one has to, give way, and obviously, it's the religion which has given away, because religion has been defeated. I mean, what I mean, religion has been defeated. Religion as a civilization has been defeated, both Christianity and Islam. I mean, Islam is in the process of Islamic civilization is in the process of being defeated. But religion then, abstracted from that civilizational dominance, becomes totally different thing. In fact, it is then understood within the dominant dominant epistemic perspective. It is an expression of the whole man. So even this term, the expression of the whole man, is very Hegelian. So modernity has already fused into Iqbal's conception of religion here. Thus, in the evaluation of religion, philosophy must recognize the central position of religion. What is this must? Is this ethical must, normative must, or factual must? So there's no must. Philosophy must recognize the central position. I think philosophy doesn't really care anymore about religion, because it has defeated it, and has no other alternative but to admit it as something focal in the process of reflective synthesis. So that's again a Hegelian term. Hegel thought that religion, Christianity especially, contain the same truth as philosophy, but in a more in a more non-conceptual ways. And the thought can be found in Farabi, for example, as well, in a way. But I think what Hegel was talking about, when Hegel was talking about Christianity, he was talking about Christianity which was already transformed through Reformation. And so philosophy as religion as understood by philosophy, not as something independent and historical existence as it was when it was a dominant force. So thus, in the evaluation of religion, philosophy must recognize the central position of religion has no other alternative but to admit it as something focal in the process of reflective synthesis. Nor is there any reason to suppose that thought. Now here, thought and intuition are essentially opposed to each other. So here Iqbal is presupposing that the distinction between philosophy and religion is merely based on two different epistemological pathways they take. So religion have already been departmentalized here, in the sense that philosophy and religion have become part of the same university. As so you have a philosophy faculty and religious faculty, and philosophy uses thought and reason, and religion uses intuition, and they are partners in search for reality. So this is just a romantic view of reality, and Hegelian as well. But again, when Hegelian system talk about religion, it's a religion already a religion within the bound of philosophy, so to speak. So nor is there any reason to suppose that thought and intuition are essentially opposed to each other. But the thing is, this presupposes that philosophy is some sort of search for truth, or religion is some sort of a search for truth, and the wider civilizational context or epistemological um, background doesn't matter. But that obviously is not the case. They spring from the same root and complement each other. No, um, so that presupposes that philosophy is something eternal, religion is something eternal. But as I said, there are different conceptions of philosophy. There are different conceptions of religion, and what role religion or philosophy play and how they will be related to each other depends on the overall civilizational context, overall power relation, the type of worldview which is predominant. So, um, so this is an abstraction of a very and in a sense it is very Hegelian as well, as where it sees religion and philosophy as complementary to each other. The one grasps reality piecemeal, the other grasps it as in its wholeness. So that corresponds to Hegel's idea that Christianity reflects or contains truth as philosophy contains truth, but philosophy contains that truth at a higher conceptual level. On the other hand, Christianity contains the same truth or expresses the same truth within more intuitive or emotional level or feeling based level, or more concrete level. The one is present enjoyment of the whole of reality, the other aims at traversing the whole by slowly specifying and closing up the various regions of the whole for exclusive observation. So the one is present. The one is present enjoyment of the whole reality, that is absolute, Hegelian absolute. The other aims at traversing the whole by slowly. So the philosophy does it piecemeal, and the religion does it more intuitively. It's a bit different from Hegel, but because for Hegel, philosophical truth is a higher truth, because although both philosophy and religion are grasping the same truth, but the expression is higher because it's conceptual. But for Iqbal, it seems that they are more complementary. So both are in need of each other for mutual rejuvenation. So they feed off each other. So that's his own idea of how they should be really. Both seek visions of the same reality which reveal itself to them in accordance with their function in life. So philosophy both seek visions of the same reality which reveal itself to them in accordance with their function in life. So religion and philosophy has different functions, and reality, and depending on their function, they have different strategies to grasp reality, and reality reveals itself to them according to their functional needs. That's again Hegelian of a sort. In fact, intuition, as Bergson rightly says, is only a higher kind of intellect. So basically, it's a very abstract conception of philosophy and very abstract conception of religion. Abstract meaning not in the sense that the religion, the epistemology of religion or philosophy is necessarily abstract, but abstract in the sense that it's this whole conception of religion and philosophy and their relationship is thought of or conceptualized in abstraction from the reality of civilization. the reality of existing power structures, not just political power, but civilizational power. We'll see if I'm sure as we move on, Iqbal would, I think, because it's not as if he doesn't know his context, but maybe I think my hunch is that in the 19th and early 20th century, India Muslims saw their defeat in terms of a defeat to a civilization which was superior in knowledge and as a consequence in technology. So they theorized, or they conceptualized their defeat in terms of the inability of Muslims to keep up with their tradition of knowledge, and that was the main reason for their defeat. So I think that understanding feeds into this idealistic conception of knowledge, and but we'll see next time. We'll see next time. We'll start from the search for rational foundations. Thank you.